Happy Friday, everybody. Good evening. It is the last weekday in May, May 30th, 2025. I'm Nate Eaton. Welcome to Courtroom Insider. I hope you're ready for the weekend. We got an early start to the weekend today because court abruptly came to an end right after the lunch break. We're going to talk about it. The big question today is Lori sick? Well, she says she is. At least that's what we hear. That's what we understand. As I said, we'll talk about that in a minute. So glad you're with us tonight here on Courtroom Insider, live from Arizona, where it is hot. It is very hot. I know I'm a wimp coming from Idaho with my fair skin and where we have winter 6 months of the year, but I don't know how you all do it here. Lots of fluids and lots of air conditioning. Tonight, we have a little bit to talk about, not a ton. I want to walk you through the events of today, of what happened here in Arizona, and then we will get to your questions and a couple of shout outs and get you ready for the weekend. Shouldn't take too long tonight, but so glad you're here. Let me start with where we were at yesterday, where we left off. You recall that we had about 65 potential jurors who were in the pool ready to go today. And the judge said that at that point, we really didn't need to get back together this morning for the walk-in candidates. How it works is that people were sent e-questionnaires. Either they got a text message or an email or something like that. They filled out those questionnaires, and then the judge went through those yesterday. And there was plenty in that pool of people to pull a jury. Well, then there are also people who couldn't complete those e-questionnaires and needed to show up today, this morning. So the judge said, I think we have enough. Do we need to have those people come in? If both parties agree, we don't need to have them come in. Lori wanted them to come in. And so this morning, I believe it was 28, 25, something like that, around that number, showed up this morning. We went to the courthouse around 10:15-ish. They went through those very quickly, and only 3 advanced. So we went from 65 to 68. And all of those 68 jurors were asked to report this afternoon at between 1 and 1:15. So we left this morning, went and had lunch, did whatever, went back to the court around 1. We were waiting outside. All of the jurors were on the other side of the hallway area of the court. And they were given numbers, and then they were escorted into the courtroom by the judge's staff, who went through and said had them sit in specific seats. Well, then we were invited in, the media and the public, and we sat down. And again, there are no cameras in there, so I can't show you the footage, but the judge said, due to unforeseen circumstances, we are not going to be able to continue jury selection this afternoon. And everyone's like, wait, what? What do you mean? He said, it's no one's fault, but is there anyone in this room who cannot be here Monday? And several raised their hands. And then they were given microphones, and they explained to the judge why they can't come back on Monday morning. Some had work commitments, some are traveling, one woman has movie tickets for her grandchildren and wants to take them to the movies, a bunch of different reasons why people cannot be there on Monday morning. And so what the judge did was he said, all right, all of you leave, everybody go out. So all the jurors left. And then they all agreed that the 54 remaining, so it went from 68 down to 54, those 54 will report back on Monday. And out of those 54, the jury will be picked, 12 jurors and 4 alternates. Now, that's, again, when the judge apologized to the jurors for having them come all the way down to the courthouse, said something happened that was beyond his control. And then he said a comment he let the jurors go. Oh, and then he also said, I should have backed up. This morning, Trina Kay, the prosecutor, asked about some motions that the judge has not ruled on and said, can we hear those motions now? And the judge said, I believe I'm going to issue those in writing based on yesterday's experience. I think the back and forth with Lori. So he's not even going to let her be heard verbally on those motions. She can file a brief if she wants, and she already kind of has. So the judge handed out his rulings on those motions, and then he said something to Lori about quarantining. And this is the first hint that we knew what was going on. that somebody was sick, mainly the defendant. And we did request after the hearing if we could have that one portion of the video from the For the Record system. It's FTR. It's the video recording audio system in the courtroom. And we got it. We got that little portion. They did allow the 25 or so seconds to be released. This is what the judge said to Lori.
All right, will you please, I know you have restrictions on what you're able to do, but if you have issues where I know in the jail people get quarantined or something, if you don't think you're going to make it to court on Monday, please let your team know sooner rather than later, okay?
Okay, so did you catch that? So let me play it one more time for you.
All right, will you please, I know you have restrictions on what you're able to do, but if you have issues where I know in the jail people get quarantined or something, if you don't think you're going to make it to court on Monday, please let your team know sooner rather than later, okay?
So there is where we got our hint that something was not right. Lori is sick or says she's sick. Spoke to many people after who told me the same thing, people who are kind of in the know and know about these things. A few people said they don't feel she's really sick, that she's just trying to maintain control of the situation. But other people, she did say she was sick and apparently too sick to have jury selection this afternoon. And because of that, she was taken back to her jail cell. And what will happen now is on Monday morning, instead of opening statements, jury selection will continue. Actually, the jury will be picked. So those 54 people have been told to report back to the courthouse. They'll be questioned. There'll be, individual group of voir dire if they need it to do individual, and then they'll be picked. And then after that, the judge will say there'll be 12 of them with 4 alternates. The judge said that we can expect opening statements in the afternoon, maybe around 3-ish, 4-ish. So Gonna pack a lot in. Now, does this throw off the schedule for the case? Yes, it does. And the judge mentioned, and Trina Kay mentioned, that she's going to speak to some of her witnesses about maybe possibly coming back next week on Friday, maybe. Because right now there's no court scheduled for next Friday, but maybe there will be now because everything's thrown off. So we'll see. Now, some of you asked on social media, what happens if Lori really is sick, has to go to the hospital, if she can't, show up next week? Obviously, if she's so sick she can't show up for court, then it will have to be delayed by a day or two. That's happened in other cases where the judge has been sick, the parties have been sick, and they just hold off for a day or so. If it's a serious illness, it gets pushed off. But hopefully nobody is seriously ill. Looks like the defense attorneys, her defense attorneys seemed okay. So did the prosecutors. They seemed okay. The judge seemed okay. Of course, you leave there and then you start to wonder, am I getting sick? Maybe that's just me where I'm like paranoid of, oh, shoot, am I going to get sick now? So that is what happened today. I wish we had more to talk about tonight. We don't, but that's where we're at with jury selection in the case. Now, I was thinking last night about how this case came to be. Oh, by the way, I should mention Brandon Boudreaux and his wife Jenny were there in court today in the afternoon. They drove all the way down there and probably found childcare for their kids and everything, and thus had to turn around and go back home and come back on Monday. But they're looking great and seem to be, ready for this to happen, ready to get going. But I was thinking back to when this case happened. I didn't cover it. We in East Idaho News, in Eastern Idaho, we didn't cover any of this stuff until the kids went missing in December of 2019, a few days before Christmas. The Arizona media did cover it a little bit when Charles was shot. You can remember there's the footage that's out there of the helicopter flying over the house, and I believe a couple of news stations did cover it. The newspaper did, but really not many, because we didn't know the extent of it, obviously. Had we known back then, I would have been there. And then a few months later, so Charles is shot. A few months later, Brandon's shot at coming home from the gym. Again, we didn't cover it at that point. A few weeks after that, so the timeline of events is Charles is shot and killed in July. Brandon is shot at in October, early October. Tammy Daybell is shot at October 9th, but the gun doesn't go off. She's then killed October 19th in her house, asphyxiated in her bed. And before that, I should say, in September, Tylee and JJ are killed and buried in Chad's property. So you've got that, window of events. None of it really hits the news until those kids go missing, and until word gets out that those kids are missing. Of course, now looking back, we know so much more than we did then. We didn't know where the kids were. But I was looking at thinking about when this case first happened. We've seen the body camera of Brandon that I showed you. And on Sunday before the trial, we're going to go over kind of what we can expect with this trial. Who are the witnesses? Many of you have asked, is there a witness list? There is a witness list. We'll go through it on Sunday night. We'll have hopefully some experts here to talk about what we can expect in this trial and what the prosecution needs to prove if they want a conviction in this conspiracy case. It's obviously different because the defendant is alive, but it is not the defendant. Well, the defendant is alive, of course, but the victim is alive. But it's the exact same charge that Lori Vallow Daybell faced in Charles's case. So, you can argue the victim's the victim is living versus dead, but it's the same charge, and she could face the same exact sentence and punishment. But our sponsor for Courtroom Insider, this trial, is newspapers.com. And I was playing around on their website today, and it's fascinating. You can go to their website, and for a history person like me and a news person, you can type in like Ted Bundy murders, and all the stories about Ted Bundy murders come up. You can type in Charles Vallow, Lori Vallow. They have newspapers as recent as this year, but also going back decades, centuries. Let me look actually how far back they go. They have, at least the 50s. I know that. They have over 1 billion newspaper pages to explore. So I do have a point here in telling you this. Newspapers.com, the past, read all about it. You can enter a keyword right there and look at this, what people are searching for, the Sharon Tate murder. I don't know anything about the Sharon Tate murder, but here we go. From 1971 in Cocoa, Florida, you can see like with the news agencies where they were covering this. So you could type in like Elizabeth Smart. And newspapers, the Daily Journal, 2003, that would have been around when she was found. The Fort Star Telegram. This is hundreds of entries, I would imagine, for this. Yeah, I mean, hundreds and hundreds. In Pennsylvania, there's 840,000 results on there. So anyway, I tell you all this because I went back and I looked up the story when Brandon was shot. And I want to read it to you. This is from the Arizona Republic. Arizona Central. Yes, Arizona Republic, same publication. This is from New Year's Eve of 2019. Again, remember, Brandon was shot in October, beginning of October. So this is 3 months later. After the kids go missing, when Brandon comes out, and a lot's happened in those months, as we know now, Brandon did an interview with the newspaper, and I believe that's when he did the one TV interview with Fox 13 in Utah. And then he kind of went quiet because he obviously didn't want the spotlight on him. But here's what this article says. Jessica Boehm, written December 31st, months before there's his car, by the way. So that's the car that was shot at. The window gone. You can see the frame of the window, the glass, and of his Tesla. So it hit that. It could have killed him. Makes you wonder, had he been 1 inch ahead of there, 1 inch behind it, and it could have been really anything with it. So let me go through here and read the story. Months before the mysterious disappearance of Joshua Vallow and Tylee Ryan garnered national attention, one of their relatives was shot at in Gilbert while driving home from the gym. The bullet missed Brandon Boudreaux's head by inches, according to court documents. The shooter fled, and the investigation is ongoing, according to Gilbert police. The attempt on Boudreaux's life occurred October 2nd. The Jeep that his would-be killer was driving was registered to Charles Vallow. Vallow died July 11th, shot to death in Chandler by his wife's brother, while his son Joshua Vallow, 7, and his half-sister Tylee Ryan, 17, watched. Again, some of the facts that we know now, we don't know for sure if JJ was in the house with that. Tylee, we've heard was, but remember, this is reporting that's nearly 5-6 years old. So just keep that in mind. You might read it and be like, why'd they report that then? It's because we didn't know any difference. Boudreaux believes Charles's death, the children's disappearance, and his attempted murder are connected to a radical religious group that the children's mother, Lori Vallow, joined about 18 months ago. Quote, I just don't know how people can get so wrapped up that they can end up in this space where these people are. It's just so radical, so different, Boudreaux said. Boudreaux's ex-wife, Melanie Boudreaux, is Lori's niece. She began spending time with Lori and the religious group and suddenly demanded a divorce over the summer, Brandon Boudreaux said. I thought I had a happy marriage, so it was pretty overwhelming, Brandon said. Before the divorce was final, someone driving Charles Vallow's vehicle attempted to kill him, Brandon said. Brandon was about to pull into his driveway when he saw a gun with a silencer poke out of the Jeep's window, he said. He heard a gunshot as his driver's side window shattered. Police later confirmed that the vehicle was registered to Charles Vallow. Charles Vallow was Lori's ex-husband. She divorced him, joined the religious group, and married Chad Daybell weeks after Daybell's wife died suddenly at age 49. Over the summer, Charles Vallow came from Texas to visit Lori Vallow and their children. But after he arrived to pick up his son, Charles and Lori Vallow started arguing. Lori's brother, Alex Cox, intervened and killed Charles, police said at the time. The investigation into Charles's death is ongoing. Detective Seth Tyler of the Chandler Police Department said on Friday. On December 12th, Cox himself died. The cause of death is unknown at this time, Gilbert police officer Danny Covey told the Arizona Republic on Friday. The investigation is pending the results of an autopsy, which could take a few weeks or months, Covey said. Joshua Vallow and Tylee Ryan were at the Chandler home when Charles Vallow was killed. It was shortly after Charles Vallow's death that relatives stopped hearing from Tylee and Joshua. The children were last seen on September 23rd in Rexburg, Idaho. Rexburg police are investigating the disappearance of the children with assistance of the FBI. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell are not cooperating with police. In social media posts and media interviews, family and friends of the couple have described the couple's religious beliefs as cult-like and troubling, saying they spoke frequently of the end of the world. Sean Bartholick, an Idaho-based attorney for Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, issued a statement to some media outlets saying Chad Daybell was a, quote, loving husband and has the support of his children and in this manner. Quote, Lori Daybell is a devoted mother and resents assertions to the contrary, the statement read, as reported by East Idaho News. We look forward to addressing the allegations once they have moved beyond speculation and rumor. I'll pause there and say I believe the allegations have been addressed without speculation and rumor. But that was the statement at the time. After his attempted murder, Brandon asked the court for full custody of his 4 children and requested Melanie not see their children without supervision. Quote, the agents investigating the shooting have indicated to Brandon that they have concerns over the children's safety if they remain in the care of their mother unsupervised, Brandon's attorney wrote in a court filing. In that filing, Brandon's attorney expressed his concern about Melanie's relationship with her aunt, Lori Vallow. Melanie frequently spent time with Lori and took their children to her home, according to the filing. Brandon said through his attorneys that he worried his children were, quote, at risk of imminent physical and emotional harm if they were to return to their mother. When she was alerted of the shooting, Melanie did not express concern for his safety or the safety of the children, Brandon claimed in court documents. About 2 weeks after the shooting, Melanie texted Brandon that she had decided to move to Boise, according to court documents. The kids could remain with you in Arizona. You could arrange for daycare, and I could have the kids for school holidays and summers. Or I could take the kids to Idaho and enroll them in school there, and you could have the kids for school holidays and summers. Please let me know what you'd like to do, Melanie texted Brandon. A judge granted Brandon temporary custody of the children. Brandon said he is living with the children in hiding out of state. In November, Melanie was arrested on suspicion of trespassing on Brandon's parents' property in American Fork, Utah, according to the Utah County Sheriff's Office. She was released from custody that same day. Melanie did not respond to the Republic's request for comment. Brandon said he is just a normal guy who thought he had a simple life, a wife who loved him, 4 kids they both adored, and a dream house in Gilbert. The religious group his wife's family became entangled with has uprooted everything, he said. Brandon is calling on anyone with information about this group and their actions to come forward and help bring resolution to their lives. He's particularly concerned about Joshua and Tylee and finding out what happened to them. I know that there's people that know more information than what they're sharing. Just come forward and help this end, he said. Anyone with information about the children or the situation is asked to contact Rexburg Police. It's wild for me, at least, to go back and read that from 2019. Now, from all that I understand, Melanie and Brandon have worked out their child custody issues. Melanie is remarried and living in Arizona. Brandon, of course, is remarried and living in Arizona. And that is what the news reported back in 2019, December. And here we are. Who would have ever imagined when he did that story, that interview back then, that we would be here almost 6 years later awaiting trial for that shooting incident? And how scared would you be if you have a spouse, a partner who you believe is into this cult and these beliefs, and you have kids? And what would you do? And that's why he went into hiding in Utah. So anyway, that just wanted to read that to you. And here we go. Let me go ahead and read some of your questions. Yeah, thanks to newspapers.com. You really get lost in there and exploring all sorts of information that's on there. Let me go to your question. Actually, first, let's start with some shout outs. Friday night shout outs. Hillary Sue and her husband Ethan. He sits beside her on the couch, certain we won't acknowledge them. Well, Hillary Sue and Ethan, we're acknowledging you tonight. I hope you're watching on your couch. And now you can say that we acknowledge you. So thank you. Of course, we're going to watch you. Maria Paz from Argentina. Awesome. We had somebody from Argentina yesterday, too. So that's amazing. Kathy from British Columbia, Canada. Thanks for watching. Tara from Sydney, Australia. Leilani, you've watched since the beginning and really love me. And I really love you and your team. You have a fan for life. Well, that's kind. Thank you. You don't want to say that because I could do something really stupid and then you won't like me anymore. Kate Hanlon from Australia. We have Orsolia Goal, who watches from Austria, Vienna. Incredible. Joseph Posse in Utah. Janet Fellows from Rugby, England. And Karen Slaw from Richland, Washington. Thank you all so much. You're the best. Really appreciate you watching and supporting Courtroom Insider. Oh, wait. I forgot to tell you. We're doing a sale on our shirts on eastidahonews.com. From now until Sunday, just for those of you who watch, if you use the promo code PRETRIAL, all one word, PRETRIAL, PRETRIAL, you get 15% off anything on the East Idaho News store. But I need to show you where to find that stuff. I'm just checking right now. Pre-trial, 15% off everything through Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. We have some mugshot shirts left, and we have some crime shirts left. And I'm going to show you where you can find those. If you go to eastidahonews.com/shop, and we're doing free shipping. So free shipping and 25% off. If you're not in America, if you're overseas, go here. And I'm sorry, the sale doesn't apply to things on this store. This is our third-party site. But they have hoodies and mugs and hats and shirts, and you can order there. But if you order here through this part of our site, the Bear World passes are gone. I don't know why they're still on there. But anyway, if you order an Ain't Nobody Got Crime for That, Local News Matters, Guilty of Following East Idaho News, the mugshot shirt, the Secret Santa sweatshirts, hoodies. We have a couple of number one fan shirts left, and we have a couple of chopper shirts. Get to the choppa. Order any of those. Type in the promo code PRETRIAL, PRETRIAL, and you get 15% off and free shipping until Sunday night at 11:59. And we will ship those directly from our newsroom to you. Whatever's left. There are, on a lot of these, there's not a lot of sizes left, but we just want to clear off our shelves. And figured, I told our team, I'm like, let's give it to the people that watch Courtroom Insider because they're awesome. So there you go. Glad I did not forget that. Okay, here's your questions for the night. Got a lot of questions last night. Thank you. Somebody says, can the judge change his mind if she gets too belligerent that she has to use a real attorney now? I don't think he can demand that she use a real attorney. I say real attorney. I mean like a certified attorney. But if she decides it's too much for her, she can tell the judge, I no longer want to be my own attorney, and can we have someone else do it? Or my advisory counsel, can we have my advisory counsel do it? And then they can do that. But she can't then change her mind back. Now, as I mentioned last night, if she gets too crazy and wild and can't contain it, the judge would likely take a recess, maybe talk to her. As I said, they built a room for Brian David Mitchell. I don't see Lori getting that far into it. But you never know. I mean, there's been defendants that have refused to show up for court, and sometimes they have to be dragged there or whatever. I hope it doesn't get to that. I don't think any of us want it to get to that, but we'd have to see. If you go back and look at the recordings from yesterday, you can see that the defense seems to have turned their laptops to face the camera, and it appears that they have purposely increased the font size. Is this possible? If so, why? I have no idea about that. I don't think that they would do that. I don't think they would want us to see their screens. I think that there was a wide shot, perhaps. I haven't watched the footage that closely. And the one attorney was on the end and her laptop was there, but I did notice at one point she closed it. So I don't know. And you know, I can't comment on that. I'm not sure. Natalie asks, how long do you think the trial will be? Do you think Melanie will be charged with anything? The trial was expected to last trial days, probably 5 to maybe 10 days total actually in court, not including like today and yesterday. So there'll be opening statements. Could be 6 or 7 days. It depends on if Lori puts on a defense, but for now she has no witnesses that we know of. And she could take the stand, but I don't foresee that happening. So 2 weeks from now, it could be over. We could have a verdict. And I don't believe Melanie will be charged, but she could. She could, and don't hold that to me, but it's been a long time if you were going to charge her this late in the game. But maybe they're waiting for this trial to end. I have no idea. Why did they want Brandon dead? What was the motive? Well, Brandon had money, and if he died while he was still married to Melanie, she would inherit all that. She would get all of that. And Melanie was close with Chad and Lori, and I think that's why. I think that he had money. He had a successful job. He had funds, and that's possibly why they wanted him. It seemed like every person they wanted dead in this case had money. If Brandon testifies, is he bound by rules to not bring up the other people who he knew so much about that Lori unalived? That's going to be hard. That's from Katie. Yes, he is bound by those rules. And in fact, there was a portion of today's hearing where this issue was brought up in the morning, where the prosecutor said, we're going to have to reference Charles's death somehow with like the Jeep. And so how we're going to do it is we're going to use terminology such as in another case in Gilbert or Chandler, this happened. They're not going to say Charles Vallow died because Lori Vallow orchestrated his killing. They're going to refer to it broadly and generically so that the jury doesn't find out about the other crimes. Lori then had a question about that too, about when she's questioning a detective from Idaho, how she's going to word that and phrase that. And the judge said in another hearing or something like that. And then he said that she could pull out a transcript of the hearing and give that to him to refer to if he testified in another trial. So yeah, they're not allowed to bring it up. Brandon can't bring it up. Brandon can answer the questions. And sometimes people are like, well, why doesn't the witness just go rogue and just say, not only that, you killed your kids and you killed your husband and you killed your new husband's wife. If that happened, and while we might feel like that would be amazing and you could really, show it to Lori or whoever the defendant is, that can cause a mistrial. That can cause things to be completely turned upside down and things have to happen again. So it's not the best for that to happen. It's best to just simply answer the question that the prosecutor has or the defense. Kathleen says, was Melanie remarried before or after the attempted shooting of Brandon? She remarried after. The attempted shooting happened in October, and then Melanie got remarried over Thanksgiving weekend in November in Las Vegas. So it was about 2 months after. Hillary Sue, have you met or interviewed anyone that's been in jail with Lori? I would find that to be fascinating. I have. I did an interview years ago with someone who was in jail with her. Let me try to find it and you can read it. It's not an audio or a video interview. So I have to tell you that the inmate interviews are tough because you have to put into question that they're, not always honest. Neither are any of us always honest, but we have to be careful because what if they just make this stuff up? That being, I'm not saying that this woman did that, but I'm checking. Maybe I did have video, or maybe I just kind of talked about what our conversation. This was back in 2020. So let me see what we have here. I'll play it for you. How's that?
Madison County Jail is speaking out about how the mother was acting days after she was taken into custody here in eastern Idaho.
Welcome back, Lori. Where are your kids?
Daybell arrived in Rexburg on March 5th from Hawaii. She didn't have much to say to me then, but when she was booked into the Madison County Jail, she opened up to a woman who was in the same jail pod. Now, this woman has asked EastIdahoNews.com not to use her name for safety reasons, so we are calling her Melissa Cook. Jail officials confirm that the two were in a segregated pod from March 5th through the 8th, and they were the only two women in there. Cook says she made it a point not to ask Daybell about Joshua J.J. Vallow or Tylee Ryan, her children who had been missing since September. Nobody knew where they were at the time, but Cook did not want to bring them up because she wanted to build a relationship of trust with Daybell. Cook says Daybell was always upbeat and friendly. She never showed any sign of heartbreak, never cried, did not appear to be disappointed, and was glad that she was no longer incarcerated in Hawaii because she said that there were roaches in the facility in Hawaii and that the conditions were, quote, awful. Now, the day after Daybell was booked in Rexburg, she was scheduled for her initial court appearance in Madison County. You might remember media outlets from across the country were huddled outside and hundreds of people showed up. Daybell complained to Cook about her dry skin. She was worried about how she would look during the court proceedings, so Cook gave her some lotion, deodorant, and makeup she had purchased from the commissary. Now, many inmates also use Jolly Rancher candies and colored pencils for lipstick or eyeshadow. Cook says Daybell knew that this was a big deal and she was actually looking forward to it. When she returned to her jail cell hours later, she wanted Cook to watch the news with her. Actually, when it came on, she said, "Here it comes. Here's my story. Turn it up. Let's see what they say about me now." Now, at that point, the big issue was whether Daybell was going to be able to post $1 million bail. Cook says she was coming and going from her jail cell to meet with her attorneys constantly. And one time, Cook said, "Are you going to be able to post it today?" And Daybell responded by taking her hand from her head, rubbing it down her body, and saying, "We'll see if all of this is worth $1 million." When Daybell was not with her attorneys, Cook says she was likely talking on the phone or having video chats with her son Colby or new husband Chad. Cook recalls her telling Colby to read the book of Job and saying that he would understand the challenges she was going through. Daybell said she was being tested like Job. At one point, she said, "Colby, just listen to me. Everyone wants to know what's going on, but it's none of their business. God doesn't judge me, and they shouldn't judge me. The prophet says to stay off social media, so don't go on there." Cook describes Daybell's calls with Chad, her husband, as, quote, nauseating. She said that Lori Daybell wanted attention and affection and reassurance from her husband that he loved her, and she always made sure that she looked good if they were communicating. Daybell never spoke to Cook about religion, but spent her free time reading scriptures and praying. And all along, Cook believed that her children really were alive. She said that she thought Chad and Lori had taken them to a polygamy compound while she and Chad decided to start a new life together in Hawaii. Well, after 4 days, deputies came and took Cook from the segregated portion of the jail to another part of the facility so that Daybell could be in isolation. Later, Cook went to another facility, and when she was released last month, she actually texted Lori Daybell to see how she was doing, and Daybell responded. Daybell said, "How are you doing? I've been praying for you. I'd love to visit with you. I'll schedule you in later today. Hopefully that will work." Well, that meeting never happened. Daybell, of course, remains in jail awaiting her arraignment, which will be on Thursday, where she will plead not guilty or guilty to the charges. As for Cook, she says she'll always remember something that Daybell repeatedly said in jail, and that was, everything has a purpose. God has a plan for everyone. His plan will be accomplished. You can read more about what Cook witnessed while she was in the Madison County Jail with Daybell. We have the full story at EastIdahoNews.com. I'm Nate Eaton reporting.
All right. Well, I hadn't planned to show that, but thanks for your question. Good question there. I also want to say, hold up. I also want to say that a couple of weeks ago when I was here, a woman reached out to me who served time in jail with Lori. I believe after Lori was found guilty in Idaho, she went back to Madison County to wait for sentencing. And this woman wanted to talk to me, but not really go public with her story. So I'll keep it vague. Maybe she will go public one day. I invited her to tell her story and do an interview with me, but at the time she said she just needed to talk to someone who kind of was familiar with the story. But she said it was life changing spending that much time with Lori, but not in a good way. That it had permanently changed her life. And she went on to tell me other details that I won't share, but just that it was very hard for her now to be in there with her. So anyway, good question. Thank you. Why does all of this matter? Gabriella says. Gabriella, why is the state of Arizona wasting precious resources to bring someone to trial who's already received life sentences? A lot of people are asking that. I talked to my mom earlier today, and she's like, "What's the whole purpose of this? Like, she's already going to jail." Well, Brandon Boudreaux is a victim. His family is a victim, are victims. He was shot at. His life was nearly taken. He has the right to justice. He has the right to have this trial. And even though it won't change anything legally, he has the right for that. Now, let's say for some bizarre universe that her Idaho convictions get overturned and Charles Vallow's convictions get overturned. You could say that if she's found guilty here, it's insurance against the other cases. I mean, I don't see any overturnings happen, but he has the right to do it. Arizona could have said, we're going to let the case rest. Both cases, Charles and Brandon, we're going to just let Idaho do it. But to Arizona's credit and their legal team, legal people, they decided that they were going to pursue the charges. So that is why it's happening. Yes, it does cost a lot of money. It does cost a lot of time. I'm sure all those potential jurors today were not happy that they had to go all the way down there and then turn around. But that's what happened. Tate. What is CrimeCon? Isn't that just romanticizing crime, violence, and violent criminals? It is not, Tate. In fact, they don't allow people to dress up like criminals or in, bloody clothes or crime scene tape. You hear from prosecutors, defense attorneys, you hear from survivors, you hear from Larry and Kay Woodcock spoke a few years ago. Summer Shiflett, Lori's sister, came a few years ago. Other people have spoken on big cases, attorneys. It's really just like an educational type thing. If you're into true crime, Jean-Benet Ramsey's father spoke a few years ago. He'll probably be there this year because we are in Colorado. It is in Colorado, I should say. But yeah, that's what CrimeCon is. And you can go online and learn about it. I know it's not for everybody. My wife was a little weary about going, but she actually really liked it. And she's not a big true crime person. By the way, thank you all for your kind words and thoughts. Erica's home and doing well. She had a little procedure yesterday, you could say, and she is doing much better today. And it was our daughter's last day of school, and so she helped out with the final graduation type activities, meaning 6th grade graduation, not 12th grade. Glad we're not there yet. Susan asked, does Lori make eye contact or look at you, at me? Funny you asked that, Susan, because she did today. In fact, we smiled at each other. After the morning session, she stood up, she went to leave. I was seated, normally the media are in the back row, but during jury selection, we were able to sit much closer. So I was on the second row directly behind the defense table. And when she stood up, we did make eye contact, and she smiled at me. I smiled back, and you're not allowed to talk. If you're caught talking to the defendant, big trouble. You'll get kicked out. I think that's it for our questions. Thank you all for sending in some good questions and for watching tonight and being with us during Courtroom Insider. We'll be back. I'll be back Sunday night again with a preview of what we can expect next week on the trial. If you are interested in coming Monday to court, Well, I don't know how that's going to work with jury selection because if there's not enough seats for all the jurors to sit, the judge will have the public out. But I imagine though there might be 30 seats, maybe 40. And that'll happen in the morning. But then opening statements there, because the reason there's limited seats is the potential jurors come in and they sit in where the public normally sits. And then once they're dismissed, they leave. But once the jury's picked, they'll go sit in the jury box up front by the judge in the well of the courtroom, and then the public can sit there. So I don't know what time to tell you to be there. You don't need to be there super early. At least I wouldn't believe so. Unless you really want to see, you could go super early. But I would imagine court is going to start every day at 10:30. Here's how the timing of when you can watch. It starts at 10:30. That's when Arizona time, I should say. 11:30 Mountain is when I'll start posting the live updates. Then we'll go live on our YouTube channel with the video. And then, of course, Courtroom Insider every night. But that's how you can stay up to date. But if you go to the courthouse, get there whenever you wish. I will probably get there around 9:30 on Monday. Here's where you can follow me all weekend long, just what you want to do. I'll try to post some fun stuff this weekend. I think I'm going to go out and explore Arizona. It's so hot though, so I have to find some indoor fun places to go. And if you have any recommendations of like series to watch, like documentary series or shows on Netflix or HBO, whatever, let me know because I'll be looking for that. And I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks again for watching. This is Courtroom Insider. I'm Nate Eaton. See you on Sunday.